Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what unfolded at Westminster Cathedral wasn't just a funeral, it was a rare hinge in royal history. A wicker coffin borne beneath Byzantine domes, a sovereign of the Church of England honoring a Catholic requiem, a last-minute absence that changed the choreography without changing the meaning, and a future king and queen who steadied the lens simply by showing up. Keep listening until the end. I'll tell you the tiny floral detail on the wreath that told the truest story of the day. The bells carried first, a low, deliberate toll that felt older than the stone. Then came the king. Charles did not try to lead the room, he let the room lead him, as it should at a requiem. The face was set, the step was sure, and the message was plain: this is duty expressed as deference. He stood as Supreme Governor of the Church of England inside Britain's great Catholic cathedral to say farewell to Catherine, Duchess of Kent, a woman who chose Rome in 1994, chose music when the spotlight didn't serve it, and chose to be useful long after public schedules stopped mentioning her name. Around him, the family arranged itself the way families do when grief is real and protocol is close by. William and Catherine took their places without theatrics. If you watch them at moments like this, you understand why the institution leans on them. William's stillness reads as respect, not distance. Catherine's gift is smaller and therefore rarer. She lowers the room's temperature without ever seeming to. A soft word to an usher, a steadying hand for an older arm, the kind of half-smile you offer a stranger in a pew when you both know words won't help. This is how you keep attention where it belongs, on the life being honored, not the cameras waiting outside. Then there was the absence everyone noticed and nobody tried to spin. Queen Camilla, downed by acute sinusitis, withdrew at the last minute. The palace kept the language simple and left it there. In an era that loves euphemism, plain speech did the job. The procession formed without her, the meaning didn't change. What changed was the silhouette, a slight gap in a familiar line, and the reminder that even finely tuned calendars can't outrun ordinary miseries. The service itself said what needed saying without the help of a lectern. Mozart's Ave Verum Corpus lifted the nave, and a 30-year-old radio choice from Desert Island Discs suddenly became biography. Catherine loved music the way people love air, quietly, constantly, without needing to be congratulated for it. She taught kids who didn't know they were supposed to meet a duchess. She let the arpeggios do the introductions. For 3 unadorned minutes, the public and private lives met on the same note. Then came the sound that England keeps for farewells that matter. A piper of the Royal Dragoon Guards, her regiment, walked the centre aisle with "Sleep, dearie, sleep," and the cathedral turned into a memory chamber. You could hear the echo of 2022, when the same lament closed the longest reign we'll ever see. The drone filled the domes, the past filled the present. Older faces glanced down, not up. That's how you know a ritual is working. It makes a room look inward without telling it to. If you missed the message on the wreath, you missed the woman. White roses for Yorkshire, because roots matter more than guest lists. Rosemary for remembrance, the old herb doing what it always does. Oak leaves for strength without show. September blooms for farewell, because the calendar carries its own poetry. Achillea for healing, jasmine for amiability, and tucked in like a family joke told only to those who know, sprigs of yew from the gardens of Hovingham Hall. Eternal life written in green. No card could have done more. Look at the architecture, and you see the accommodation Britain does at its best. Westminster Cathedral, red brick, Byzantine, candle warm, does not look like the monarchy's usual soundtrack. That was the point. The crown has learned to honor without insisting, to bow to rooms it does not run, to let continuity be generous. The late Queen opened that door years ago, when she stood at King Baudouin's Catholic funeral. Her son walked through it today, unhurried and showy, and sure of the difference between authority and insistence. Some of you asked whether this day was also a test of the family's moving parts. In a word, yes. These moments always are. Prince Andrew came and kept to the silence, as he should. Sarah, Duchess of York, moved with the gravity of someone who knows the velvet and the thorn of royal life. The Gloucesters stood like they always do, reliable, untidy with kindness. Princess Anne, with Sir Timothy, reminded the country that service can be a straight line over decades if you choose to draw it that way. And then the absence beyond Camilla, no Harry. For reasons the palace did not narrate, and did not need to, the younger son stayed on his own map. On a day that asked for unity without performance, the line held without him. That is not a triumph. It is a reality. If you watched Catherine closely, you saw the crown's quiet argument for itself. Not a speech, not a slogan, habits. A head lowered at the right word. A step held while an older gentleman eased around the pew end. A small exchange with the cathedral verger that said thank you for your house, we are guests here. None of this lights up a trending bar, all of it keeps the country with you. The late Queen ran that play for 70 years. Catherine runs it in a different century with the same result. The room calms, the noise outside waits its turn. William matched her note. Less the heir, more the grandson by marriage who knows the difference between ceremony and attention. He didn't claim the day. He let the day claim him, because that is what good ceremony is for. It carries you so you can carry the feeling. In a week, when the diary will swing from requiem to red carpet, from chapel to quadrangle, that discipline matters. It tells the country that the machine can change gears without grinding. And it will need to. Tomorrow begins a very different chapter, motorcades and anthems and a state visit calibrated inch by inch. The optics will sharpen, the trumpets will return, and the same three people you saw today, the King, the Prince and Princess of Wales, will have to hold the line between solemnity and show without dropping either. If you want to understand why British pomp still lands around the world, you start here. A family that can do the hard quiet and then, without changing faces, present the nation's best coat of polish. Today taught the tone, tomorrow will test the timing. What did the day say about the monarchy itself? Something that older viewers will recognize in their bones. The crown's best case has never been glamour, it has been steadiness. A king who bows his head in a church not his own, because family is bigger than headlines. A prince and princess, who turn a national broadcast into a private courtesy simply by refusing to make themselves the subject. An institution that, at its best, remembers what belongs to whom, faith to the faithful, music to the musician, grief to the family, and makes room for each without asking for applause. There was history threaded through the program, if you knew where to look. The wicker coffin, English willow, made in Somerset, carried an old English confidence that beauty and humility are not opposites. The royal standard for other members of the royal family laid across it like a final signature, dignity without spectacle. The choir's Latin sat easily in a city that has heard every language in the world. Inside a building consecrated in 1903, the first modern Royal Catholic funeral found its voice, and Britain proved again that continuity can learn. From the cathedral to Frogmore is not a long journey on a map. It is a long journey in the story. The royal burial ground has a way of smoothing edges. Edward VIII and Wallace are there, history's roughest couple written into grass and yew and time. Catherine will join a community that understands how private endings become public memory. The Piper's lament followed the hearse out into the London light. The crowd let it go without a cheer, which is exactly right. What of Camilla's absence? It changed the photograph. It didn't change the meaning. Illness is the one explanation that needs no amplification. The palace's restraint spared everyone 100 useless paragraphs of speculation. She will reappear when she can. The monarchy's strength is that no single pair of shoulders has to carry every day. Before we close, the detail I promised, the tiny flourish that told the whole story. Tucked into that Wreath of white roses and oak leaves was yew from Hovingham Hall, the Worsley family home. Yew is the oldest tree in Britain's churchyards. It stands where the living come to speak to the gone. Eternal life, written not in Latin this time, but in green. In a city of headlines, a sprig of yew said what needed saying about a duchess, who believed in things you can't photograph. So yes, today belonged to the camera, but only because the camera remembered to be quiet. The king bowed, the family followed, the music walked the nave, and a country that often argues with itself watched something it could agree on, grace under a crown. Tomorrow the uniforms will gleam and the band will turn a courtyard into a drum. Today did not need a trumpet. It needed a piper, a choir, a wicker coffin, and a sovereign who understands that the most eloquent thing a king can do, sometimes, is to walk behind.